Welcome to Unscripted Counsellors with Cris and Kellie. I am Cris from Keneally and Bella Counselling.
And I am Kellie from Kellie Sheldon Alternative Lifestyles and Sexual Counselling. That's a mouthful,
It is.
but that's all right.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. It's been busy as I think it's been over a month since we've managed to
Yes. But you haven't been
work with
well.
our schedules. Yeah, I've had a
That
couple
hasn't
of health
helped.
things pop up. So, and it's when you hit that fatigue, it's like you just need to rest.
You do. Listen to your body.
Mm-hmm. And we tell our
Sleep.
clients that all the time.
We do.
So with everything going on, it's kind of like the podcast can wait.
It can. It'll still be there.
Exactly.
It'll
So
still be. And because we do them, we don't do them in advance. So we don't have like a stockpile ready to sort of hit out and release. We literally do things by the fly of our pants, which is, how most people live life. And it works better because it is unscripted. So that's what we do.
Yes, and it helps us stay relevant to what's happening at the moment as well.
Absolutely.
So we're not discussing something from like 6 months ago because we recorded it 6 months ago.
Yes.
And we're very much unscripted, so we don't have a call sheet in front of us on what we're going to discuss when we're going to discuss it. We have a topic and we go from there.
Yeah.
And I think we've lined up a couple of people. So over the next few months, we'll have a couple of guests.
That would be nice.
So that will be interesting to see what we can manage in that way, because I know that was a goal of ours when we started to eventually start bringing in a guest segment. So it'll be interesting to see how we go.
Absolutely. I'm outside again. It's a beautiful day here in Perth. And so if you hear the train, it's just the train.
Yep.
And my bird's outside with me today too. So he might squawk and he's going to say hello maybe. So there might be a bit of noise coming from my end, but it's natural. It is what it is, as they say.
I'm in my office. It's 34 degrees here today.
Yuck.
And the dog is snoring next to me. So.
Oh, yuck.
Pretty much.
All right. What you got for us?
I really wanted to discuss some. I know we don't like using the word normal.
No. Common.
Yes. Common is a better word, but there's also almost like a normalization that we do where we validate our clients and go, what you're feeling is natural.
Yes.
And I guess I kind of wanted to touch on that because I've felt myself validating not just my clients a lot this past few weeks, but also family, friends, myself, especially. Because like I said, I've had a couple of health things pop up and I've had a few family things pop up because I wear the business hat, the mum hat, the co-parenting hat, all those things. And I've burnt myself out a little bit and I've gotten a little bit emotional. So I've gone through a lot of self-reflection, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just thought we could touch on that because it's something very present for me and so it's a little bit personal, I guess, this topic, but I'm also seeing it in other people as well. So thought maybe sending that message out that you're allowed to be angry at this.
Hell yeah.
As long as you cope with it in a healthy manner.
Yeah.
And not take it out on everyone around you.
Yeah.
Then you feel guilty for how you treated people. So you just continue to react and it's just a cycle.
Yeah, but we do that because we can't handle it anymore within ourselves or we don't want to turn it on ourselves. So therefore we push it out to other people.
And that's where there's two different types of people. There's the externalization and then the internalization.
Yes. So external is when we're pushing out to other people, and we displace they use the word displacement. We push out to other people. That's like when you've heard, everyone would have heard, oh, you're projecting that term, right? So we're projecting our anger onto other people. And internalization is when we turn it on ourselves, and that's what affects our self-esteem, our self-worth, because if someone says something to us, or, we take it personally, we turn it internal and we make it all about us. So if we're having a really hard day, instead of just, being able to sit with it and cope with it in a healthy way, a lot of people will turn that on them inside and make it, that they're the worst people in the world. That's internalization.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It is, because I think everyone does it to a point.
Yeah, we do.
And
you can do either or. It's not one as a
or you
predominant.
do both. You internalize to the point where you can't handle it anymore, and then you externalize.
Yes.
You explode at the people around you.
Yes. I see a lot of people like that.
Yes.
Because they've got this thing that they can't express their feelings. So they internalize said feelings, and then they will not be able to cope, as you said. So then it becomes an external onto those around them. So they explode like volcanoes. Yeah.
And then also the question goes of parents who do this, how do we then teach our kids not to, if we don't know how to?
That's, and that's a really interesting point, because we sort of think that our kids have to behave in a certain way all the time. Or most people, that's the generalizations, right? We're being very generalized. We're being very general. So we have expectations of our children to behave a certain way, especially when there is, when we go out, or when we've got visitors over, or, when their big emotions pop up. And yet our adult selves can't always handle those big emotions. And that's our inner child coming out going, oh my God, I need to have a tantrum right now because I can't handle this, because I can't express what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I want to say. So I do it in this way. Children are no different, but we just expect children to not have tantrums. But how many adults do you see that have tantrums?
Their tantrums look a little bit different.
They can look exactly the same too.
They can look exactly the same at times. I've seen a few fully grown adults chuck a 2-year-old tantrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your point's very valid, is how can we teach our kids then be able to manage their emotions if we can't manage ours? Yeah.
So I've spent a little bit of time talking to my own therapist, because even though I am one.
Your therapist's grand therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
Your client's grand therapist.
It's not even my supervisor, it's my personal go-to, because and as odd as it can be, like, oh, how can a therapist help me if they require a therapist? No. It's like, it's not standard. That. It's standard, it's expected. Especially in our profession, because we need to take care of our mess, so our mess doesn't become your mess. It helps us stay objective with our clients. It helps us focus on the client and not bring our own issues into the session and suddenly turn a session that's about the client into us.
And then we're normal. We're human.
We have emotions too.
Oh my gosh. We have the same problems as everybody else.
Exactly. We're not robots.
It is actually probably one of my pet peeves when people turn around and I hear them say something along the lines of, oh, well, you're a therapist, you should know better. And it happens a lot, where I see it. Facebook therapist groups. So like where you're in a group that is full of, clinicians, and someone will put up a post about something, and it can be one of the most toxic environments for our profession, because people are, they're activated. Their own nervous system is being activated by what's being said in the group. And there's these discussions that are, because you've got to put on this face that you
know
should be
what
able
all.
to do the
Mm,
unconditional positive regard that we give our clients. And that means that, no judgment space, right? We make
mm.
everything safe. So these groups are meant to be safe. And the amount of stuff that goes on in there,
It's
just
not always.
inside information.
Just like with any Facebook group. And I
Oh my
think
God.
that's a bit of a stigma with social media.
Yes.
But like I was saying originally, I've been doing some talking with my own therapist and mentor. And I just wanted to discuss a tool she gave me because it feels weird and wacky, but it sounds amazing all in one.
Oh,
if
look,
that
I
makes
do
sense.
parts work with clients. That's weird and wacky. So bring it on.
Okay. It's not even parts work. It's getting the whole family on board. And she's like, you get a whack it. Everyone in the house gets a whack it.
What's a whack-it?
A whack it, yes. It's a cushion or a stuffed toy or something small that each person can punch or hit against the floor or cuddle it. It's an emotional punching bag.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And the idea of it is to help a child direct their big emotions when they can't handle them into this whack-it. And the way that it can also help the adults in the situation is the adults set the example of how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So say my 7-year-old is feeling so overwhelmed and angry with the world. So she starts yelling and screaming at me. And I'm human. I'm going to feel hurt.
Yes.
My beautiful little girl is not being herself. So I'm going to yell back. And then she's going to realize what she's done and feel bad about it, and then continue to yell because she doesn't know how to process the emotion she was already feeling. So it just becomes a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So as an alternative, we could do like especially when introducing it, it helps when there's another two adults around, is say the child's yelling and screaming at me and the other adult can see me going, breathe, breathe, try and stay calm. The other adult turns to you and goes, would you like your whack-it? And that's where you go, yes. And you take it and you sit on the floor and you punch it, you kick it, you whack it on the floor, put on a little bit of a show, especially when they're younger, when the child's younger. And when you're done, you take a deep breath and you put the whack-it up. And the adult goes, do you feel better now? And you go, I do actually. And the child's going to be looking at you going, oh my God, what the hell just happened? It'll break them out of it a little bit, of that cycle. And it also shows them a way of expressing. So then next time they start yelling, you go, would you like your whack-it? Instead of you reacting to what they're doing, you're going, would you like your whack-it? And they might go, yes. Or they might go, no. And you let them go a little bit and would you like your whack-it? And when they say yes, you hand them their whack-it. And they release it by hitting it or kicking it or whatever within a safe zone. And when they're done, you go, do you feel better? Do you feel like yelling anymore? And they've calmed down enough that you can have that conversation with them to get to the root of the problem. And then they don't feel guilty for how they treated you. And you actually get to the root of the problem rather than continually going around in circles.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
I'm following.
I'm
following.
Because like a lot of, especially with spectrum children, a lot of therapists recommend a punching bag.
Because emotional regulation is really, really hard for neurodivergency.
Exactly. So even if you're neurotypical, sometimes you can struggle with your emotions,
hell yeah.
especially if you're not taught how to do it.
Hell yeah.
You don't have to be neurodivergent or neurospicy, however you want to call it.
Neurospicy, I like that one.
Yeah, I saw it on TikTok the other day. I'm like, I
I'm
like
not
that.
on TikTok, so why would I wouldn't even know.
But a lot of stuff on TikTok goes across to your reels on Facebook and Instagram anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I saw the term neurospicy and I'm like, that's a really nice way of
I
putting
like that
it.
one.
Yeah.
I like that.
So why not use it for all children? And this is on a smaller scale to a punching bag, and everyone has their own.
What do they say though? Because I remember quite a few years ago, I was reading some research around what you're talking about, and there was concerns that giving children punching bags and teaching them to hit things like that when they're angry is going to reinforce violent tendencies.
No, because they're only allowed to do it with that one thing.
But it's still training the brain to lash out, hit, punch, be violent, because that's what it is. It's being violent towards something instead of using other calming methods and focus methods.
Well, you don't have to hit punch. Scream into it.
Yeah.
You feel like screaming at someone, scream into the whack-it. You don't have to hit punch. But when you've got a child that's potentially exerting, like I'm not saying my child is hitting out, but say a child is hitting out, you do it in a safe zone so they don't do it to something else.
Yes.
It's about creating a space where they're not going to hurt others or themselves.
I guess that's why martial arts are great, because they teach
discipline and breathing and
emotional regulation and being able to control your emotion and make sure that whatever you're doing is in a safe space. That's why they sort of say, you know, especially with kids who struggle with emotion regulation, to put them into martial arts, because it's just a different outlet. Because
and a lot of because I've done karate and things like that myself. They have a rule: if you are caught using what you teach in these classes out in the world to hurt people, you get banned.
Yes. Yes.
Self-defense is a completely different thing.
Absolutely.
But if you're going out attacking people and using those skills like that, then you can be removed. So there are rules and boundaries in place. And that's the same with the whack-it, going, okay, you're feeling overwhelmed. We only do those things with this item. We don't do it with other items. We don't do it with other people. So that's before I was talking about, that's the process of how you use it. But around it, there are rules and boundaries, just like if you were to put your child into martial arts.
Do you have to apologise to the whack-it after you've whacked it?
I can't remember. I'm going to have to go back to Kellie. It's another Kellie.
Because that would be super cool.
Yeah.
You know, apologising. You know, because that's a great lesson, because not enough people, I can't talk today, not enough people apologize after they lash out and hurt people, because, you know, they're so embarrassed and so shamed of their behavior that they just cannot even fathom apologizing for doing something like that, because the shame is so big, you know, so they just sort of don't mention it. Whereas that comes up, you know, if we're teaching, okay, you can use this tool then to express your big emotions, then let's do the repair work and apologize, so then it also doesn't become a shame-filled behavior. So the two, for me, would go hand in hand.
That makes
emotional
now that you say that, I'm like, I feel like that is the next step with it. And you could also look at, you could do the lesson around, okay, you've treated it this way and it's all crumpled and everything, and you say sorry, but does it put it back into its shape it was before?
Yeah.
Going, so does sorry always work?
Yeah.
because
Lots
as
of
much as
lessons
you
in that one thing.
apologize and you feel bad for what you've done, it doesn't necessarily undo what you've done.
Yes. Lots of lessons just in that one little tool there that you could use, even with
Exactly.
adults.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying originally, is this exercise isn't just for kids, it's also for adults. And it can be a learning experience for a family as a whole.
Yeah.
So it was really intriguing for me. And it's been something that's been playing on my mind the last couple of days.
Yeah. I mean, well, it takes that, it brings on that level of ownership for your behavior as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in the camp, that I know that society at the moment is telling us that nobody can make you feel a certain way, and it's true to an extent, right? I have a bit of a problem with it. It's true to an extent that, when someone's standing there and they're being nasty to you and you're being hurt, I'm sorry, but that's not on you because you're hurt. That's on the person that's hurting you because they're being an ass.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it goes, I sort of feel it goes the same way with relationships, whereas if you know each other and you know each other's activation points, and where there've been a lot of wounding has happened, especially during childhood, and those woundings are activated, you can help your partner heal those woundings by being aware of what actually upsets them and not doing it. So it's sort of like, it takes back, I think the problem I have with this statement of nobody can make you feel a certain way, it sort of negates the ownership towards the other person, the responsibility towards the other person.
And my knowledge of science on that makes me disagree with it.
Yeah.
It's like you see videos of these exercises with plants, 2 lots of plants or 2 jars of rice.
Oh my
and you
God,
say
yeah,
all the love stuff, all your happy music, and on the other side, all your hate-filled music, all your hateful words.
Yeah.
The white rice, all those plants, the rice stays white, the plants flourish. The ones with all the negative thrown at them, they eventually, the rice turns brown and icky, and the plants don't flourish, they struggle to grow.
Yeah, like my office plants. If you've seen on my Instagram feed, my poor office plants, and I'm sure it's because of what they hear in there. They're just traumatized plants.
But that's the thing. What people say to us does matter. It does affect us.
Wow.
Because it's what's feeding us, is what's around us. That's why we encourage people to find their people that think similar to them and understand and respect.
I wonder if the message that's missing, is not so much it's nobody can make you feel a certain way, right? But I wonder if the message is more of they can, but then you also need to be able to express how you feel about what they've just said to you in a healthy way.
See, where I just totally went to Princess Diaries #1, and there was a quote the driver Joe said to the princess of, "No one can make you inferior without you allowing them to do so."
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Eleanor Roosevelt quote, I believe it is. I know the wording's not right.
Yeah.
But we can choose whether we allow those persons' words to define us.
Yes.
Yes, their words may hurt, and we're allowed to feel how we feel, like I was saying at the beginning. However, we can choose whether their words and opinions define us.
Yes.
And continue to have an effect.
Yeah.
They can have an effect at the time, but it's whether they continue to.
It's that choice, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's that choice. And we were talking before we hit record, which I said to you, we should be recording this. We were
do
talking,
that every time.
I know. We were talking about how much we let our past define who we are and our way of thinking, and that, some people believe that shifting your thinking doesn't change things. And I mean, I expressed to you that there was a time in my life where I've gone, yeah, I could actually see that that was my way of thinking as well. I was very much sitting in that space that everything that happened to me and I couldn't change it.
Mm-hmm.
It's now shifting, and there's been a big shift in over a period of time of how I think about things like that. And it reminds me of a story of two identical twin brothers. Now, there's been so many studies done on twin brothers, or twins, identical twins,
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to do the nature versus nurture debate.
Yes.
Which we know now it's both, not either or, it's both.
Yes.
We know this.
Mm-hmm.
So, example of two twin brothers brought up with an alcoholic father who was extremely abusive to them and to their mother. One of them became highly, highly successful, has a beautiful family, children, is multimillionaire, is excelling in life every day. The other one is not. He is really struggling. He has got addiction issues. He's in and out of jail. He's struggling with all his relationships. And a reporter goes and talks to both of them and asks the same question to both of those brothers, how did you end up like this? So the brother who's struggling turned around and said, well, my father was an alcoholic and he used to abuse my brother and I, and he was very abusive verbally and violent. He was violent towards my mother. And this is where I am because of him.
Mm-hmm.
She went and then asked the other brother, how did you end up like this? And he goes, well, my father was an alcoholic and he was very abusive to my brother and I, both physically and emotionally, and very abusive towards my mother. And I just decided that I was never going to be like him. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same upbringing, exactly the same experiences.
It's just they made two different decisions.
Two different choices. One of them owned it and said, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to make changes in my life. The other one went, I can't do anything about it. This is just what I've been dealt with. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think that comes back to the statement of people can make you feel a certain way. Is, yeah, you might feel hurt for those certain amount of times, but as you just said before, what you choose then to do with that is up to you.
Yes.
And that comes back to learning resilience and learning how to handle big emotions when we're younger. Mm-hmm. So having to relearn how to do all that, reparenting, as they call it, where you parent yourself as an adult, can help shift that emotional regulation. And that comes back to the original part where we started all the way back at the beginning of today's topic, validation of self. Validation and empathy for self. Praise yourself. I've done the kitchen, stand back and look at it and go, Jesus, that kitchen looks good. Look at me go. Or yes, I got up and I did the housework today. Or I had a really good day at work. Or that was a really good conversation. I'm allowed to feel sad today because that really hurt. 100%. That's how you do it.
It's being aware of what you're feeling and acknowledging it.
Yes. And not shaming yourself for it. Coming at it from a compassionate angle towards yourself and towards that part of you that's been hurt.
Yes.
Instead of coming at you with anger and disappointment and shame.
And like I've dealt with so many parents as well that have a belief themselves and are so hard on themselves for this because that's their belief, but then they're teaching their kid the complete opposite by encouraging them to do something that they believe they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Because they subconsciously know that this belief is limiting themselves, but they can't get it out of their own self-talk.
Yeah.
And that self-talk is where we talk to ourselves, and it's like when you go, oh, you're an idiot. You start believing you're an idiot.
Do.
So it's like years ago, instead of going, you idiot, I went, oh, that was a genius moment.
Yeah.
And it changed.
Making fun about it instead.
You're making fun of it for making a mistake.
Yep.
Turning a negative into a positive because our brain will just hear those positive words.
Yes. Yep. It's like when you say, I can't do something. I hear it with one of my children more so than the other. She's doing her animation at uni. She's going to be an animator. and she struggles with drawing what she calls, technical term, bipeds, people, things that have two legs.
Yep.
And for a long time she struggled with this, and we would have massive discussions because she draws quadrupeds, which is things that have 4 legs, right? I'm having to learn all this. And she'd say to me, I can't do it. And she would get so flustered and so overwhelmed, and like we would have tears over this. And I'd just have to sit there and go, you just can't do that yet. Add the yet. It changes, it flicks a switch, it changes the perspective. I can't do that yet. I am just learning how to do that. And lo and behold, it has taken probably 7 months of these conversations, but she has drawn a couple of people figures, and she's still not good at them for her limit, because she's very much a perfectionist, right? Scared to fail. Perfectionism is being about scared to fail. That's all perfectionism is. So she's realizing that, but she's getting better. She's getting better. So
it's like I grew up with a dad who said there's no such thing as can't.
Yes.
And it's like that term alone can come across on its own as very narcissistic. However, when you're encouraging to keep trying, it's not that you can't do it. It's that you need to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's changing the language of can't doesn't exist. It's you just haven't learned how to do it yet.
Yeah. We were born, right? We didn't know how to walk. We didn't know how to crawl. We didn't know how to pull ourselves up. We didn't know how to hold anything. We didn't know how to talk. We had to learn how to do all that. And if you think about how many times when you were learning, like even watching your children, like when we watch our kids learning how to do these things, when they were learning to walk, how many times did they fall over? And they just got back up and they just did it again.
Yeah,
they
it's
fell
like,
over,
how do we lose that resilience?
And they did it again.
How do we lose
I think we
that
become
resilience?
Self-conscious.
But how do we become self-conscious?
We get scared to make mistakes because the education system tells us we're bad if we make mistakes.
But we're seeing it in kids before they enter the education system. So where are we learning this mentality that if I don't get it right the first time, I'm not good enough? If I make a mistake, I'm not good enough. Where is that coming from then?
Oh, I wonder if it's because we're told no as toddlers.
So, I struggle with that.
Because there's some things you can say no to and it's okay, and other things it's like you shouldn't probably do that. I don't know, maybe it is the wording that's used. I'm an older mum than you.
Yeah. See, where I struggle with, I'm sorry, everyone needs to learn no. No is a boundary.
I'm not saying we shouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
We're trying to work out where it's coming from, right?
I know. Exactly. I just remember when my kids were little, especially when my first one, so this is 10 years ago, where there was a big thing of you shouldn't tell your kid no.
Yes.
And I'm like, how are they supposed to
learn what's
not appropriate, what isn't safe, what not to do? It's like watching my niece crawl around my house and getting into cords. She's not going to understand, oh, you shouldn't touch that. She's going to understand, no, that's not safe. She's 8 months old. How is she going to understand anything other than no? Oh, I shouldn't do that.
This is what I mean, though. I wonder if that's how our brain, even though we know there's a reason why, as an adult, right? As an adult brain, we know there's a reason why we are saying no.
Yes.
As a growing infantile 8-month-old brain, we're still learning to walk at 8 months, so we're still getting up and we're still trying things. My oldest, is 25 in a couple of months. So that's what I mean, where I'm a very much older mum than you.
Yeah, where my eldest is nearly 13 and youngest is 7.
I've got 20 and 25.
Yeah.
So my oldest was walking at 9 months.
Yeah, mine
So
were walking at 9 months.
yes, my youngest though wasn't crawling until she was 12 months.
Yeah.
So I've got very, very big differences
Mm.
in my children, and for milestone wise. And yeah, so I'm just wondering whether or not there's just certain things that we teach them. It's the way that the brain is. I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist.
Mm.
I have no idea. I've done a little bit of
That's
cognitive
not
work
our
in,
area.
you know,
Maybe one
my
time
side
we can
stuff.
get
Maybe
a neuroscientist on to help us with
or a
that.
behavioral person or an
Someone who like
OT.
specializes in psychological development.
Yeah, I mean, I did it at uni, but oh my God, that was
I'm doing that at the moment.
psychological development.
Yep.
Okay, I did it in my undergrad, so that going back 9 years ago.
Mm.
I don't remember a lot of it. It comes up. I don't remember it.
Mm.
And because I don't work with young children, it's not something that I need to recall and stay up on top of.
But to a point, because you do parts work, you probably
Yes.
should, because you're dealing with the inner child. So understanding their developmental milestones would probably help.
Oh yeah, a lot of the stuff that I do around there with that inner child is just sort of, you know, having those conversations with that part. So just watch Inside Out, people. You'll know exactly what we're talking about when we talk
Yeah.
parts. If you watch Inside Out,
Parts work is inside out. So your different emotions are
yeah,
different bodies and
thoughts, different ways of thoughts, thinking and feeling, and how they come out. So they control us.
Exactly.
So when we're doing parts work with inner children, or, you know, that 4 or 5-year-old, we're thinking about an event that happened that created that 4 or 5-year-old part of that person to feel a certain way. It's like, it's validating, you know what, you were a child, that's not your job. And it's that reframing.
Yeah.
Not so much around the developmental, but it was definitely reframing about, you were a child, it was not your job to make sure that everybody was happy at that time, or that mummy and daddy weren't fighting, or that, you know, they had enough food for you that day, type thing. That wasn't your job.
Yeah.
You were a child.
Yeah, that's true.
We sort of I don't go into the developmental stages
Yeah.
when we do parts work. That's just way, way, way too complicated. But it is very interesting to think, when and at what point do we stop trying, and then go, I can't do this. I know some kids do it earlier. Like they will give up when, you know, when doing puzzles, I can't do it. And then we sit down and go, yeah, you can keep trying. But whether, it's a
because kids develop
beyond us
at
topic.
different levels. It's like you were saying, your youngest was crawling at 12 months and your eldest was walking at 9 months. Kids develop. Yeah. Kids develop at different stages, and it's not even a matter of neurospicy or anything like that. Kids develop at their own pace, and it's not a matter of being advanced or anything, because when they go and get a job, their employer isn't going to give a damn about when they started walking or when they said their first word.
Put in context, though, both of my children are neurospicy. Different ways.
Yes.
One's autistic, one's got ADHD. And so, you know, I bet you can tell which one's which, you know, in that context of walking and crawling. And it hasn't changed as they've got older. It has been one of their life lessons to do things. One needs to slow down, and the other one is just, you know, goes along at her very, very snail's pace, which she's quite happy to do until she gets something that she can't do and then gets very frustrated by it. But yes. I've lost your volume. I can't hear you.
Is that better?
That's better. You must have you got a loose connection?
Yeah, I think when I sat back, I moved the cord. But yeah, it's like we say, we don't like using the word normal, but normalizing that we go at our own paces, we feel what we feel.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel what we feel.
Hell yes.
Yeah. And obviously, if you are struggling with bigger emotions and you can see that bleeding out into your family and things like that, maybe think about seeing someone about getting tools
Yes. There's
to
heaps out
help
there.
you cope better, because we're two counsellors within a huge community.
I think I read there's something like in Australia, there's like 14,000 counsellors.
But are they all practicing?
That's registered, like as in, yeah.
Registered with like a ACA or PACFA or something
That
like
was
that.
the Australian government funnel numbers.
Mm.
And I know there's probably a few out there that are practicing that are not registered with Australian Counselling Association or PACFA.
Yeah.
And that's from different scopes of education too. That's right through from diplomas right through to university qualifications. Yeah.
Through to full-blown degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And it's, as much as it's slightly saturated, it's not a bad thing either, because picking a counsellor is like picking a best friend.
Hell yeah.
You got to feel comfortable with that person.
Hell yeah.
And you got to feel like they can actually help you. You got to gel with this person, because you're telling them you're deep, dark, and ugly sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you don't gel with that person, are you really going to get out of it what you need?
No. You'll get a little bit, but you're not going to get the real deep stuff. You know, like if you can imagine a tree where you've got the trunk and the leaves, and that's the problem that you're talking about, the roots below the ground is a lot of where the issues stem from. You know, the roots all below the ground is where they all stem from. So, I mean, you can go, and some people are quite happy just to go and sort the leaves out. You know, they're like, yep, just help me sort the leaves out so I can get through my day and I can function and I'm okay here. Whereas other people are like, no, I want to go deeper. I want to go down into those roots and I want to sort some of those roots out. Even if it's just a couple, you know, you don't always have to go and sort the roots out if you don't want to.
Exactly. And it's like one of the things we were talking about before we started recording is I archived a client this week or last week because they decided to go on a different path. And at the end of the day, we had the discussion on why they decided to go down a different path, and it was an amicable split, because I couldn't provide exactly what they were looking for within the time frame that they wanted. And they had their own reasons, and which I totally respect.
Absolutely. It's part of the journey.
That's exactly it. And I don't take it personally, because I can guarantee you I don't like every single person that I've ever met.
No. Oh my God. If I think of all the therapists I've been to over time, some of them I have really connected with, and others I've just gone, no, there's nothing, it's not going to work here. And if you don't have that connection and that safety, the feeling of safety within, or calmness within that therapeutic relationship, or we class as what we call as a therapeutic alliance, the work won't happen. You'll get little bits, but you're not going to get the work done.
Exactly. It's like for one of my daughters, she had her very first counselling session as a client last week.
Yeah.
To help her through some stuff she's been dealing with, because as much as I'd like to think I've got that relationship with her that she can come to me and talk about things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need that outside on how to best talk to me about that.
Oh yeah.
And
you're their mum, not their therapist.
Exactly. That is exactly it. And I know there's people that are like, why would a 10-year-old need therapy? Especially my 10-year-old, who does appear to be very stable and aware and self-aware. But she still needs to talk. She still needs to let stuff out. She's still got emotions.
Yep. There's people that take babies to therapy.
Mm.
Yep. And that's perfectly normal. It's
Mm.
perfectly common,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfectly okay. They normally go with their parent, of course.
Mm.
It's a dual relationship that the therapist is working with.
Mm.
Anna Freud used to do it. The Anna Freud Foundation, that was one of her biggest things, is she used to do, or her foundation actually does, mother-child or parent-child therapy relationships,
Mm.
even before the child's born, even before the child is actually even born, like as in before it's even can speak, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's nothing unusual for
But
yeah.
it's removing that stigma. If you're going to counselling, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, you do not have to have something wrong with you to go and talk to a counsellor or a therapist at all.
Exactly.
No.
Sometimes it's like I've got a supervisor. She's been doing it for so long, and she was telling me in a supervision that she has clients outside of not supervision,
Yep.
but clients that she still sees every 6 months from 7 years ago, just for a check-in.
Yep, I do that with my clients. My long-term clients, I've got a couple on the books that we do monthly. That will stretch out to every 2 months to every 3 months. It's just to make sure that they're staying on top of things.
Using their tools, not feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, all sorts of things.
And if they just want to come in and we just talk about what they're doing and how life is for half an hour, and then they're like, you know what, and now I just want to sit here and just talk to you as a general conversation for the rest of the time, then that's what we do, because that still builds the rapport. So yeah, it's about reading.
It's that friend you check in with every 6 months, because we've all got one of those.
Yeah, but on a different level for us.
Yeah, but on a different level. Exactly.
Yeah.
We can give there's
Just a different
what's the word?
sometimes.
What's the word I'm looking for? Not objection. We're objective.
Objective.
Yeah. So
On the outside.
we're not, like, your best friend is emotionally connected to the situation, and you can vent and talk to your best friend, but they're emotionally involved in the situation.
Yeah.
Where a therapist isn't. So you can get that third party perspective. Yeah, I can't use
got my
words
disease
today
now.
either.
I just transferred it to you.
Yep.
Ah.
Oh well. But yes, it's that third party person that has that outside perspective, that isn't involved, isn't emotionally invested.
An impartial thing, and it can ask, you know, sometimes we just see something. We won't tell you the answer because we're not meant to. But we can lead you to a different pathway of thinking by the questions that we ask.
We can ask questions to help you think about it from outside perspectives.
And help you learn to validate yourself.
Very much so.
Teach you those tools of validation and things like that. So yeah, you don't have to have something wrong with you.
No, and it's like my 10-year-old going to counselling. A lot of people would assume there's something wrong with her. Like, no, sometimes she needs to decompress. She has a busy life hold that not all 10-year-olds have. She lives between 2 households, and on top of that, she's got school and negotiating those relationships and things she wants to achieve. And I don't always have the answers for her.
That's it.
I'm giving my kid the tools she needs to cope in this big, messy, ugly world.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I highly encourage, like, I don't personally work with kids.
Yeah, I don't either.
I get too emotionally involved with kids.
I was told I should. I should. One of my lecturers told me I should. And I went, no. I've got a couple, like adolescents, not children. But mind you, I wonder if it'd be more, what are the differences between children and adolescents? You know, you got me thinking.
Well, because
I could play with children.
True. There's lots of play therapy and art
Okay.
therapy with children.
Yes. If I had my way, I'd be bringing art therapy to adults, play therapy to adults. Sorry. I want to do play therapy with adults. It's on the list.
People do it.
Lots of training that I'd like to do to extend.
To be certified to do it, because we could totally do it. It's just we wouldn't be certified to do it. So we don't know if what we're doing is really working. So having that certification helps, even if we've got the basic idea.
Sometimes the basics enough.
True. Because
you've got enough theory of everything else, enough understanding of how everything else works. It just ties in.
exactly. And a lot of your art therapy, from what I've read and learnt, is it's just another way of expressing yourself.
It is. It is.
Mm.
We do art with parts work.
Mm. And you're drawing a picture and then you're explaining the picture and expressing how the picture makes you feel and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Should get an art therapist on as a guest too.
We could get
I'd love for some of our listeners to go, what sort of guests would they like to hear from?
That would be awesome.
Mm.
That'd be good.
Mm. Well, I'm thinking we're just about wrapped up for today.
I think so too. I think we've gone completely a bit off topic towards the end there. So
completely, because at the end of the day, it was still about commonizing feelings and validation and being kind to self and encouraging education of not just ourselves but also our families.
Yes.
Within means, because it's like forcing someone to go to therapy who doesn't want to go to therapy, they're not going to get a whole lot out of it.
No,
you got to be willing to put the work in.
Yeah, it won't ever work.
Yes. So like we just mused about, if you would like to have us discuss a certain thing or look into a certain type of guest, please email us at unscriptedcounsellors@outlook.com, or comment on this video, because we're on YouTube at the moment. We're having some technical difficulties with Podbean at the moment. We'll look into that.
To look at a different podcast provider, I think.
Because we're struggling with that one a little bit. And obviously, if you would like to get in touch with Kellie or myself personally, my email is carnelianbella@outlook.com, or you can go to my website, carbella.com.au.
Yes, and my email is admin@Kellie, KELLIE, Sheldon.com.au.
And we'll have links in the
there'll be links down in the bio and down below and all of those things that they do.
Yes. All right, we'll wrap up for today, and hopefully it's not another month before we get to do this again, but life is life and life gets busy.
We're going to aim for fortnightly.
Yes, I think that's a bit more realistic and achievable.
Yes.
Setting realistic goals. Maybe we could talk about that next time. Setting realistic goals.
But hang on. They are achievable. But sometimes you don't want to achieve them. Sometimes it's best to set the ones outside of achievable because it makes you work harder and strive for it further.
We'll talk about that next time, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.